The Mokwheel Basalt has been one of the most popular fat tire e-bikes for years, and the new 2.0 version improves upon the original foundation with more comfort, features, and plenty of power. It's got racks and fenders for commuting, and fat tires, and even an optional solar panel for camping trips. The Basalt 2.0 is built for a bit of everything. Let's put it through the testing ringer and see how it does. If you've been paying attention to fat tire e-bikes the past few years, you've probably noticed Mokwheel's name popping up a lot. They have built a reputation fast thanks to bikes that feel quick, fun, and maybe a little bolder than what other brands have been offering. And the first thing you notice is that power. Mokwheel stuck with a 750 watt rear hub motor here, but it can peak up to 1100 watts while delivering 90 Newton meters of torque. Now that might sound like just numbers on paper, but what it really means is a ride that feels strong without being overwhelming. The motor doesn't dump all of its power at once. Instead, it ramps it up smoothly so acceleration feels controlled and still plenty exciting. It's the kind of setup that makes you want to keep riding, whether you're cruising around town or heading out on longer adventures. And those longer rides are helped by a big ol' 48 volt 19.6 amp hour battery. That's 941 watt hours of capacity, which is a lot of juice for this category. The battery sits cleanly inside the frame, giving the bike a more polished look, and pairs with a 3 amp charger. Not the fastest charger out there, but with this much capacity, you're not gonna be topping off every single night anyway. Now the Basalt 2.0 isn't just about motor and battery numbers. What really stood out to us was the overall ride feel. And a lot of that comes down to comfort. The bike has a 110mm coil suspension fork, wide 4-inch fat tires, and a slightly forward-leaning body posture, and you've got a bike that feels easy to handle. Now with this high-step version here, Mokwheel covers riders from about 5'7" up to 6'9", in part thanks to its adjustable stem. The payload is rated up to 400 pounds as well. There's just this one frame on the high step, but there is an ST option with 2 frame sizes to check out too. Now, safety and usability were highly valued here as well. You've got an integrated headlight up front and taillights with built-in brake lights at the back. The color display on the handlebar looks great, but it also acts like a key. You can pop it off when you park the bike and the motor will not be able to turn on. It's a pretty clever anti-theft feature you don't usually see in this price bracket. And for anyone who likes to camp or explore off-grid, Mokwheel even offers an optional power inverter and solar panels. With those, you can use the bike's battery as a mobile power station. It's a cool extra that fits the adventurous vibe that this bike seems built for. And as far as components go, Mokwheel stuck to proven choices. Stopping power comes from 2-piston Tektro hydraulic disc brakes with 180mm rotors. Shimano provides the drivetrain, a 52-tooth chainring with an 8-speed cassette that has a 12 to 32-tooth range. The tires are 26x4-inch puncture-resistant fatties, and you get alloy pedals, a sturdy aluminum kickstand, faux leather lock-on grips, and a comfort saddle to match. And this high-step model also includes a 720mm wide handlebar. Now weight is definitely on the heavy side. Our bike tipped the scales at 84 pounds, but once you're rolling, that heft helps the bike feel planted and stable, which is exactly what you want from a fat tire cruiser that's just as happy off the pavement as it is on it. So look, the big picture is this. The Basalt 2.0 brings strong but approachable power, nice comfort, thoughtful safety features, and a few clever extras you don't normally find at its MSRP of $1899. And this is just the setup, because when you get into the speed, range, hill, and brake tests, that's when you'll really see what this bike can do. So next up, let's dive into the speed test. And for this one, we head out to a flat, paved section of trail and run the bike through every pedal assist level from PAS 0, human power, up to PAS 5 to see how the speeds stack up. Now, one thing Mokwheel does a little differently is instead of locking you into a fixed Class 2 or Class 3 setup, the Basalt 2.0 lets you set the speed caps for each level of assist. Out of the box, the increments were spaced in neat 5 mile per hour steps, PAS 1 at 10 miles per hour and PAS 5 at 30. For testing, I adjusted PAS5 down slightly to keep it in a Class 3 compliant mode at 28 miles per hour. All right, riding around on the Mokwheel Basalt 2.0. So here going without any motor power, going about 8.5, 9 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and bump that into PAS1. Now, this bike does things a little bit differently. Instead of having Class 2, Class 3 options, you just kind of pick the top speed of each level. So we'll just talk a little bit about the engagement acceleration. PAS1 is set to 10, going sure enough right around there. Give me a little bit of a nudge motor power up to that point. Now it's kind of resting, about 10.2. Kick that on to PAS2. Now this one, programming-wise, set up to go to 15 miles per hour. It's a pretty easy torque sensor. It's got good initial engagement. And sure enough, you push down a little bit harder, the motor will reward you, help you climb in speed. Pretty nice, makes things feel a little bit more natural. Motor noise is still pretty quiet, all things considered, for a fat tire e-bike with as much power as this has. So yeah, this right here, holding just right at about 15 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and go up one more time. On your left. Pedal assist 3 here now. Acceleration definitely picking up. Feels like it's just easier to pedal, get it moving in general. Moving to 6th gear now. We approach that 20 mile per hour speed limit. Yeah, sure enough, as soon as it kind of hits it, you can feel the motor, not cut off entirely, but definitely back down. Going about 20.7. Okay, moving pedal assist 4 now. Moving to 7th gear here as well. Go all the way to 8. Pedal assist 4 should be taking me up to about 25 miles per hour. Sure enough, just kind of keeps climbing until it gets right to that point. It slows down a little bit. So we'll do pedal assist 5 on the other side of this turn. Yeah, this sector's feeling pretty good, all things considered, ramping up nicely. Syncing up a little bit with my cadence and pedal effort. Thing climbing about 26.5 miles per hour. Up to 27. See if we can get it going to 28. I'm not really giving it any extra effort. Yeah, sure enough, give enough time, gets you to 28. So overall, pretty good. All right, 0-20 throttle test for the Basalt. On your mark, get set, go. Alright, manageable, off the line. Just keep building and building. Slowing down a little bit here. Get upwards of 18, 18 and a half. And 20, there you have it. Alright, so starting in PAS0, pedaling with no motor support, I averaged right around 9.1 miles per hour. Kicking it up to PAS1, and that bumps just a bit up to 10.2 miles per hour. In PAS2, we saw a bigger jump, landing at 14.9 miles per hour. PAS3 came in at 20.7. Moving into PAS4, speed climbed to 24.9. And finally at the top end of PAS5, the Basalt 2.0 hit 28.2 miles per hour. So overall, this bike was sticking to its programming with a little wiggle room as to not make it feel like you hit a wall as soon as you pedaled just up to the limit. Now, on the trail, the torque sensor made a big impression. Engagement was fairly quick and didn't take a ton of effort to get rolling, but when I pressed harder on the pedals, the acceleration kicked up naturally. Smooth, controlled, and easy to dial in, exactly what you want on a big, powerful fat tire bike, in my opinion. Now, as a bonus, there are some sensitivity settings in the display menu as well, so you can alter the engagement to make it speedier or more mellow to your liking. Next up, let's look at range. Mokwheel advertises the Basalt 2.0 as being capable of up to 80 miles on a single charge. That's a pretty big claim, but with a 941 watt-hour battery, it definitely has the potential to back it up. So to test this, we ran 2 range rides on our local bike path. First, the max PAS test, where we keep the bike in the highest assist level the entire time while keeping things to Class 2 20 mile per hour speeds. Now that pushes the motor hardest and gives us a realistic baseline for the minimum distance you can expect. In that test, the Basalt 2.0 went 33.5 miles before the battery tapped out. That result is right in line with similar fat tire e-bikes. The category average is actually 33.2 miles, so no complaints from me there. Then we flipped it around and ran the min PAS test, staying in the lowest assist setting the whole ride. That one stretched out to an impressive 73.8 miles. And for context, the average in this class is about 60.7. So the Basalt 2.0 outperformed most of its peers. Now, we didn't quite touch the 80 miles that Mokwheel advertises, but honestly, with a bike this big and powerful, these results are plenty solid. Even at full power, you're looking at over 30 miles of riding, and in the lowest setting, this bike can easily carry you well past 70 miles. So the bottom line here, that oversized battery really does its job, delivering extended range compared to the average fat tire e-bike. And as we discussed in the speed test, you can pick the speeds of all these levels to stretch things out further if needed by going a bit more slowly. Okay, now let's talk hills. For this test, we use our standard climb, a half-mile stretch that we call the Devil's Backbone. It's got an average grade of 8% with 217 feet of elevation gain. So it's a proper workout for both rider and motor. Now we run this test two ways, first using only the throttle and then again in the highest pedal assist level. And we use our dedicated tester, Justin, for consistency. Let's see how it went.
We are at the Devil's Backbone doing the hill test on the Mokwheel Basalt 2.0. Set to class 2. We are in assist level 5, so it's the max assist on throttle. And right before we hit this first steep section, we got up to about 18.6 miles per hour. We're now down to about 16.4. It's kind of holding steady. Looks like it's going to bottom out right about 15.4 there on that first section. Starting to pick up speed again. See what we get back up to. Right about 18 miles per hour before we make this turn. And we're now at 15.8, 14.5, kind of holding there. And we're gonna bottom out right at 14.5, it looks like, as I kind of tap the brakes and make this turn. And see what we get back up to before this first lamp post. Right now we're cruising on 11.2 miles per hour. 12.0, and we're going to cross that right at 12.6 miles per hour. In terms of the motor noise, I'd say it's better than I expected, better than average. I can hear it, but I'm actually hearing that rear hub clicking a little bit more, which I always prefer. I'll let you listen to that now. So as we get up to about 15 miles per hour, again, you can hear the motor just a little bit more, but it's cruising pretty nicely. I'm going 16.1 right now. We're still increasing in speed. And so we'll see how this does as we cross the finish line at 16 miles an hour. Okay, we're back at it on the Mokwheel Basalt 2.0 and pedal assist 5, or assist level 5, and I'm pedaling on this and easily got up to 20 before this first hill. I am in 8th gear and currently going about 18.6. So cruising nicely, bottomed out right about 17.8 there. Did not feel like I needed to downshift at all, but I'm going to downshift here as I get back up to 20 before this turn. I'm going to go with the 7th gear and I'm at 17.8 miles per hour, kind of holding steady there. Looks like it's going to bottom right about 16.8. Going to downshift 2 more times as I turn, so I have a nice cadence to see where we get to for this lamp post. I'm going to shift back up to 6th gear. We're crossing that right at 14.5 miles per hour. So feeling nice and strong. I would say the motor feels more responsive and more finely tuned than previous versions, which I really like. The noise is still good, you know, lower than average. And as far as my pedaling a little more than soft pedal, but not much by any means, and I could push less if I wanted to. I'll let you listen now. So yeah, pretty quiet on the motor here, and I think this is gonna have a pretty good score. We'll check the tape as we finish this right at 18.1 miles per hour.
So starting with the throttle only run, the Basalt 2.0 powered its way up in 2 minutes and 1 second, holding an average speed of 15 miles per hour. That's 1 second faster than the average of all the bikes we've taken to the hill this year, while a little slower than the fat tire category average by about 8 seconds. And then switching to PAS5, with Justin adding steady pedaling on top of the motor's output, the time dropped to 1 minute and 45 seconds with an impressive average speed of 17.3 miles per hour. Now that's 20 seconds quicker than the all bike average and 5 seconds faster than the fat bike average. So both of these numbers are fairly impressive when you remember this bike tips the scales at over 80 pounds. The motor never seemed like it was straining either. The 750 watts and 90 newton meters of torque made the climb feel well within its comfort zone. And for my rides around town and on the trail, the performance lines up with real-world use. The Basalt 2.0 handles hills with ease, and thanks to its wide gear range, you can always find a comfortable cadence for moving the torque sensor, or just sit back, hit the throttle, and let the bike do the work for you. All right, let's move on to braking. For all of our brake tests, I bring the bike up to 20 miles per hour, apply the brakes in a smooth, controlled way until the bike comes to a complete stop, and rerun that test 3 times and take the average distance. For context, I'm 6'1" and about 235 pounds, so these results reflect how the bike handles under a larger rider's weight. On the Basalt 2.0, the average stopping distance came in at 21 feet and 10 inches. That's very close to our all bike average of 21 feet 7 inches and noticeably better than the fat tire category average of 22 feet 6 inches. So not only is this a solid showing overall, but this was a huge improvement compared to the first Basalt model by several feet. So I'm glad to see it shored up one of its weaker areas. The brakes themselves are Tektro hydraulic discs with 180mm rotors. Nothing flashy or new there, but paired with the frame design, tires, and overall setup, they're proven to be reliable stoppers on this bike. Now out on the road and trail system, the system felt smooth and powerful enough to handle this heavier bike. Stops were controlled, no fishtailing or skidding, just confident braking performance when you need it. So let's talk about how the Basalt 2.0 actually feels to ride, and no better way to do that than to head out and show you.
The Basalt is a true do a little bit of everything fat tire e-bike that just, it's really a lot of fun. There's a reason we've actually liked this bike kind of from, the 1.0 till now. It just does a lot really well. It's got something for everybody. It's got the power, it's got decent comfort, it's got, versatility, and it's just kind of nice overall ride. Like, Mokwheel's definitely tinkered with things and made improvements to it that just make the ride feel as good as it's ever been. So let's kind of break down just everything you get on this. So for this high step model here, there's just the one frame size. There are 2 different size frame options with the step through. The sizing on this feels pretty good. I know Mokwheel says it can support riders like up to 400 pounds. It's definitely got all the power in the world to be able to do that. And then I believe the rider height range, oh boy, I know it goes up to 6'9". Oftentimes I'm skeptical when it's going that tall, but with this adjustable stem here and your ability to really raise that handlebar height up higher, you might be able to get some taller folks on there. I don't have anyone 6'9" nearby to go test that with. But at least for me as a 6'1" rider, 235 pounds, I feel great on this particular ride. I know when I rode the step through Basalt, we were just on I believe the medium frame and didn't have the leg extension I wanted on that one. This one, 32-inch inseam, I've got all the leg extension I need. I haven't fully maxed out the seat post yet either, so honestly it feels like a really good ride. I think it will fit a wide range of riders if you're okay with that step over height, which I believe is around 31 inches or so. But yes, overall, rides really well. The 720mm handlebar is a natural pairing for me when it comes to these 26x4-inch fat tires. It just gives really good, stable handling. The bar itself feels a little bit more narrow to me just because I like to ride things with wider handlebars, but again, when you're pairing it with that fat tire, it still works. You've got good handling, it still feels nice and stable, which is another benefit of just those tires in general. Having that wide 4-inch platform is really nice. Now with this knobbier tread, you can of course go do some, riding out in the dirt. We'll go do a little bit of that here later on, but the only drawbacks to it really is just it's a little bit louder on the road than most, but kind of comes with the territory here of fat bikes. On your left, but of course with a really powerful motor and things like that, you don't have to worry about any of the inefficiencies of riding it on the road. You can just kind of lean into more of what it gives you instead of what it detracts from, which is just, again, that wide and stable platform, a really just comfortable overall feeling. And speaking of the comfort, you do get 110mm worth of travel here on the fork. That is more than most in this class. There's a lot of kind of do-it-all fat tire e-bikes going for, between $1,700 to $2,000. The travel a little bit longer on this one. Now it's an unbranded fork, so usually I can't speak on the longevity. We have had the, step 3 model for a while now. It's still holding up just fine. It's got a decent amount. As you see, I'm like pedaling out here. I've got the preload dial just right. It's not floppy or anything like that. It is, being able to support my weight as I'm riding around. I can pedal nice and comfortably, and then when you do come across imperfections in the road, sure enough, it does its job. It makes those bumps feel less abrasive. And overall, like I said, I think styling, fit, all of that thing feels pretty good here on the Basalt. I think the only thing I'm not a huge fan of personally is the grips. A little bubble on here. If I'm, I've got the stem kind of a little bit more forward. I like to kind of be a little bit more of an aggressive overall body positioning. Leaning into it for too long, I feel like if I do like 10+ mile rides and stuff like that, it kind of bothers my palms personally. But also, it's a grip. That's the easiest thing to trade out if you have a similar mindset to me. But yeah, overall really nice. And like I said, I think feels like the tuning that they've got on this particular model is feeling as good as it's ever felt to me in terms of their torque sensor. It's one of those that I feel like you can get it activated, get it moving with a fairly light effort. It doesn't require a lot of pressure on the pedals. But that being said, if you do put a little bit of pressure on the pedals, you can really activate it and get that going. But there is a sensitivity setting that you can play with to dial that in a little bit more to your own personal preference, as well as just adjustable speed for every one of the pedal assist levels. So again, being able to set it up exactly how you like it, it's always a wonderful thing. And then with that peak power of the motor, you've got just tons of torque, tons of climbing potential. It's the type of thing where even if you are like a heavier set rider, or you are loading it up with gear, taking it out camping or something like that, and just it's got all the power you need to climb hills with confidence. And I really do like the fact that there's this 8-speed drivetrain setup here on the high step version as opposed to the 7-speed we saw in the other one. But again, a little bit more gears to play with. Really find the perfect climbing gear to work with that motor, and it's a great thing. But go ahead and go find some dirt now and talk about how it does out there. All right, so once you kick it from the pavement to the dirt, I mean, the Basalt is still just a really good time. It's got a lot of confidence. It's got good handling to it, decent balance. The fork, again, it's, 110 millimeter travel, decent amount of travel to the fork. It's got a good amount of preload adjustment as well. If I'm able to kind of dial it in my weight, it's not totally like flopping into it on every little bump. Giving me a little bit of stiffness quality to it, just making it a lot more comfortable and enjoyable. Tires, of course, are performing super well out here. These looser conditions. This is what these 4-inch fat tires, chunky tread patterns really excel with. And it's just a lot of fun to go find some fire road, find these, that's a popular campsite out near us. Just kind of come to these places where, you might not want to take your average commuter or whatever, but this is something you can absolutely handle with fat tires. Now, don't go too crazy with it. I'm not advocating for single track mountain biking or anything like that. But again, that being said, there's enough confidence in the handling, there's enough stability. You can kind of like carve through your occasional berm if you come across it, and just have a good time. Now, one thing I did adjust when it came to riding out here, I did increase the sensitivity of the torque sensor a little bit. I wanted a little bit quicker acceleration and engagement because there is so much, up and down, a lot of occasions to kind of tap the brakes. I just wanted to eliminate the time to get the speed ramped up as much as I could. So again, don't be afraid to dive into the settings and really find ways to tweak things to your preferences, to your liking, or to what, the demands of the terrain. But once you get it all set up, you've got everything you really need to have a good time out in an environment like this. Now, we've already talked about the brakes and the improved brake test scores, but it does again, just a really good job of modulating speed. You can stop quickly when you really need to, but of course it's more about control more than anything. Down the line, maybe some 4-piston brakes or 203 millimeter motors would be nice, but this setup is definitely doing its job and holding its own out here, out in the desert. So all in all, this is a really good time if you are the type of person who you like to kind of explore some of these lesser traveled areas, you're a big avid camper or RVer. This is a definite good bike. You can see with mountain goats this way, up some steeper stuff, thanks to the help of that motor. And it's just a lot of fun on 2 wheels.
All right, I want to bring your attention back to one of the bike's neatest tricks, the display. It's bright, colorful, and gives you options to tweak things like the torque sensor sensitivity, or even whether you want 3 or 5 pedal assist levels. But of course, that real highlight is that it pops right off. When you detach it, the bike's electrical system shuts down completely. Between that and the fact that the bike weighs 84 pounds, it's not exactly something a thief is going to run off with. Now, Mokwheel also does a nice job giving you choices. If we count the ST models, there are 3 different frame sizes and 8 colors to pick from, which is more variety than we normally see. And compared to the original Basalt, they've made some nice updates too, like bumping the chainring up to 52 tooth, and that change cuts down on ghost pedaling at higher speeds. And it really makes a difference in the ride feel. Comfort overall is solid. The front fork isn't a big name brand, but with 110 millimeters of adjustable travel, it surprised me in a good way. It soaked up bumps without bottoming out, and paired with the fat tires, it gave me a stable and smooth ride on pavement and on dirt. And then there are the extras. So you get racks and fenders, integrated lighting with brake lights and turn signals, all practical stuff that makes the bike ready for everyday use. But lastly, I'm still surprised we haven't seen more copycats of one of Mokwheel's cooler optional features with the power inverter and optional solar panels. Campers, RVers, whoever will dig the fact that you can turn the bike into a roving power station, so you can use the bike's battery to power electronics at camp. That's not something you see every day. We've charged up speakers and phones and other small devices. Mokwheel says it can do fridges and TVs too if you're willing to try it. Just some fun extra stuff. Overall, the Basalt 2.0 rides like a practical, well-rounded fat tire bike with a few clever surprises. Okay, let's wrap things up with some straightforward pros and cons. On the pro side, the motor is a standout. It ramps up power smoothly, which makes the ride feel both controlled and exhilarating once it gains momentum. Comfort is another big win. Suspension fork, fat tires, and adjustable riding position make this one of those bikes you can ride for hours without feeling beat up. And safety features are nice inclusions too. The integrated brake lights, a solid headlight, and that detachable color display that works like a key all add peace of mind. And on the value front, the Basalt 2.0 delivered nicely in all our standard tests without any disappointments, which is great for a bike that lives in that $1,500 to $2,000 range. Handling feels solid thanks to the handlebar and fat tire combo, and the updated drivetrain means you can hit faster speeds without ghost pedaling. Another great change from the original model. I also like that Mokwheel gives riders real options with the 3 frame sizes, all the different color choices, and some unique accessories like the power inverter and solar panels. Now on the con side of things, look, touch points are personal, but I was not a huge fan of the faux leather grips with the gel bubble in the middle. There's something I'd personally swap out immediately. And this is less of a note for the high step, but oddly the drivetrain differs between the high step and step through models. I'd take the 8 speeds and wider cassette range at the high step over the 7 speed and narrower range on the ST. One of the differences I didn't feel the bikes should have, but taller riders on this model at least won't have to worry about it. So here's the bottom line. There's a lot to like about the Mokwheel Basalt 2.0, and even more that you can do with it. The motor delivers strong power, but ramps it up in a way that feels smooth and manageable. Between the high step and step through frames, you've got options that make the bike both confident and accessible, and no matter which one you choose, the upright posture, wide tires, and adjustable stem all come together for a really comfortable ride. The suspension fork works well, and paired with knobby fat tires, you're free to tackle a mix of pavement and dirt. Add on Mokwheel's optional inverter and solar panels, and this becomes a bike you can take on overnight trips, powering devices straight from your e-bike battery while you're out exploring. So even if you just stick to the basics though, the foundation here is just super solid. A big battery that keeps you rolling for days, racks and fenders for everyday practicality, and built-in lighting for safe riding around town. The Basalt 2.0 has been one of the standout fat tire e-bikes for years, and for good reason. It delivers performance, value, and versatility, and that's what keeps it so popular and worth recommending today. That'll do it for this review. Just a friendly reminder to like and hit that notification bell, and let us know your thoughts or questions down in the comments. I'm Griffin with Electric Bike Report. I'll see you on the next ride.